Greetings YouTube, Fuzz here, welcome to another Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age video, and this video is going to be applicable for those of you playing the game on PC where modding is possible. The modding question that we're looking at today was created by Eternal248 and is called The Struggle for Freedom. Now this is a difficulty mod, but it's not a difficulty mod where everything is buffed to insane levels and you just can't get through anywhere in the game. No, this is more of a sensible rebalancing mod, and it does affect enemies, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it doesn't just affect enemies, it affects many other parts of the game as well. Clearly then, a lot of work has gone into this mod, and I think that if you want to play the game in a different way than you'd normally experience, then this is definitely something you would want to check out. As such, and this is me here speaking, not the mod creator, I would personally recommend that you are at least familiar with the Zodiac Age and Final Fantasy XII before playing this mod, and also it's worth noting that there are a few known bugs, nothing too major overall, but just bear that in mind, although the creator has acknowledged that and is working on getting those fixed. Let's talk then about exactly what it is that this mod changes when you play the game while it is active. So this is a rebalancing mod. That said, it does rebalance the game so that it is overall more difficult, but more difficult in a fair way, in a fun way, not a frustrating way. You will have to think about strategies more, you will have to think about tactics more before you start going into fights in ways that you wouldn't have had to with the original game. For example, just speaking about enemies, straight across the board, enemies have double health. Now that might sound like a scary increase, but bear in mind most fights in the original game were over fairly quickly, with some exceptions where obviously they are going to be dragged out even longer with this mod. But again, not in an unfair way, I don't think. It's not like they've got a 10 times increase to health or anything silly. Just twice the increase, so a double buff there. And then a 30% increase to all of their other stats. So enemies have double health, and then a 30% increase across the board to their other stats, including their speed stat and defense stat, and magic defense and all of that stuff. So not only will they be hitting harder, taking less damage, but they'll also be getting more attacks in as well. This is countered, however, by the fact that you're going to have more strategies to work with, since a lot of the weapons, armours, the magics, the accessories and the techniques in the game that are available to the player have been adjusted in various ways. And I won't really have time here to actually go into all the specifics, although I would point you to the fact that there's a very useful readme file that comes with the download for this mod, which I would encourage you to read if you want to go into these details. But just as a few brief examples, some of the endgame weapons that are available in the Zodiac Age that you probably would never even use in the original version of the game have all been changed and adjusted so that they are at least competitive with some of the other items that you would definitely use in various other ways. For example, they might attack for slightly less damage but be faster, okay, or they might be better off in other certain situations that other weapons aren't. So a lot of thought has gone into adjusting the items so that you are going to be able to think about which are best to use in each specific situation that you are faced with. And there's a bit of a bonus as well. The 3 invisible weapons, Grat, Great Trango and the Gendarme Shield, are now all available from the Bazaar and have models associated with them. But of course, they too have received a rebalancing. Previously in the Zodiac Age and in Final Fantasy XII, there were some magics and techniques that were so niche, players rarely used them, perhaps actually never used them. So a lot of these have been adjusted as well so that you have more options available to you. For example, just brief examples here, the gravity spells, which were previously pretty rubbish, let's be honest, now actually have the earth elemental attached to them, so enemies that are weak to earth are going to be vulnerable to this spell, and they also deal normal damage, and this is true across the board for many other spells as well. And on top of that, techniques such as first aid, which would previously heal for a small amount if a player was in critical condition, will now actually heal 10% of a player's health or a character's health, regardless of whether they're in critical condition or not. So it's become a useful ability now, rather than something you would probably rarely use. But also how characters develop their stats when they level has changed as well, and this is going to fit into the new license board system, which we'll talk about in a few moments time. But for example, Bosch, who is expected to be your tank, you know, drawing the aggro from the enemies in many situations, his Vite stat, his vitality stat, which is his defense stat, is going to improve and increase a lot more as he levels up compared to the other characters, and far more so than it did in the Zodiac Age. So the stat growth of the characters is really going to play a part in the roles that the mod expects you to develop for each character. Espers have also been rebalanced in numerous ways, and again you can check all the details on that in that reading file that I mentioned. But now each Esper has its own niche use and will once again, as with the spells and weapons that I spoke about, be useful in different situations, one from another. Finally then, and I've left perhaps the biggest change here until last, and it's the change to the character roles themselves. How that is influenced by the new license boards that are included with this mod, and how you're going to be progressing your party as you make your way through the game. The philosophy of this mod then is that each character will be fulfilling the role that they have been established as in the lore of Final Fantasy XII. Of course, in the original game and to the Zodiac Age as well to some extent, you were able to give any role to any character regardless of the lore or anything like that, and you know, you can play how you wanted to, and that's great. I actually enjoyed that system. I think it had a lot of player choice involved with it, which is always a good thing as far as I'm concerned. However, I'm also fully aware that there was a large portion of the player base that really wanted to stick to what the lore had established for these characters that they were playing with, and this mod really is going to play into that philosophy. I'm going to bring the license boards up now, because in order to play into that philosophy, they've all been completely readjusted for the mod. And as you can see, they're all, you know, labelled by different names. So this is going back to the traditional Final Fantasy job system, which Zodiac Age, in my opinion, already delved into quite a bit, but this is taking things a little bit further. So when you select your jobs now, bear in mind that each character is only going to be able to select a single license board over and above what you'd normally be able to select, which is 2 if you were playing the game normally. So, for example, Varn could pick any of these jobs, but if we're going to stay true to the mod, he needs to pick Sky Pirate. If you look at the text at the bottom, it tells you who should pick which license board. So Sky Pirate is Varn's struggle job. Over here you can see there's 2, by the way, of each. That's because you have the choice between the struggle version of the license board or the freedom version of the license board. So if we go ahead and preview, you can see the struggle version, and this will be similar to all of the struggle versions for all of the characters. It's far more linear. So you take a fixed path around, and there's not a whole lot of license points to learn. So again, just part of the rebalancing in making the game more difficult, yet still entertaining, in that you are obviously progressing. And these are specifically tailored, these license boards, to each of the characters that will be wielding them. And then you have the freedom version of the license board, which I believe has just the same nodes on it and the same amount of nodes that you can unlock, but you can do so pretty much, you know, in any order. So it's nowhere near as linear. Personally, if I'm going to do this, I'm probably going to choose the original, or, you know, the mod original version of these license boards, just to see how that plays out, since that's how the mod's been tuned. And this might just make things a little bit easier, because obviously we can get some more powerful abilities early on. So we'll go ahead and learn the struggle version of Sky Pirate for Varn here. And then we can literally just go through the characters and see who it is that they're supposed to learn. Now, obviously, you can give them anyone, as I mentioned, so we could make Bal Thea a Sky Pirate, or even a princess if we wanted to. But again, to stick with what the mod wants and expects, we're going to go ahead and choose Leading Man, which is the name of Bal Thea's job. And again, we'll go for the struggle job version. And finally, just learning a job here for Penelo, which is the dancer job. So there we have it. Now basically then, just to go over what each of these jobs are roughly. So Varn as the Sky Pirate, he's going to be the thief. Okay, that means that you're going to want to equip him with the Thieves' Cuffs as soon as possible, because by golly, you are going to be wanting to be stealing all the time. Because of the way the rebalances have taken place here in this mod, enemies are going to be hitting a lot harder, you're going to be healing a lot more, you're going to need a lot of items, and you are going to be wanting to be stealing those items regularly. So next up we have Penelo, who is the dancer job, or the dancer class, and Penelo's going to be our healer. So then we have Bal Thea. His job, of course, is the Leading Man. He's going to be a damage dealer. In particular, he's going to be excelling at ranged combat and aerial combat. Next up we have Fran. She's going to be our black magic user with the Wood Warden job. So again, another damage dealing class. And then we have Bosch, who's going to be a paladin, and what he's going to be focused on is tanking. So for those fights where you need a character to draw the attention away from the other team members, Bosch is going to be your go-to member of the team to do that. And then finally, of course, we have Ashen Ashes, perhaps the one all-rounder job class that we have now in this modded version of the game. So she's going to be using time magic, she's going to be buffing, she's going to be debuffing, she's going to be doing damage as well. The first thing you want to do then, before you do anything else really, is head over to your Steam folder and make a backup of the file you're going to be editing and changing in your Final Fantasy 12 folder. And so if anything goes wrong, you can always restore this file and put everything back to its default starting position if you like. So what you want to do is go over to the Steam Apps folder in your Steam library, wherever that may be on your computer. And then in Steam Apps, go to Common, and then look for the Final Fantasy 12 installation directory. There it is. So we'll want to go to that, and you're going to see this file, FF12 TZA.vbf, and all you want to do is copy it. It's quite a big file, so if you're not on an SSD, it could take a bit of time to do this, and then just rename your copy as backup or something, so the game won't read from it, because it won't recognise that file name. But if anything goes wrong then, come on type, if anything goes wrong then with the file that we're going to edit, which is the one the game does read, then we can just delete it and rename this one back to the original file name, and everything will be back to normal. Okay, so once we've got the backup made, we're going to download those files. One thing, just to save navigation speed a little bit later on, once you've gone ahead and made your backup file here, you might just want to go ahead and copy the address location as to where this installation folder is for Final Fantasy 12, save you finding it again later on. Okay, so what you want to do then next is head over to the nexusmods.com, and there's two items we're going to be downloading. I'll leave a link to both of them in the video description for you. And the first one is the Drac Lab item, or the Drac Lab download. And what this is, it's a loader for any other mods that you then bring into the game. Okay, so you'll just want to go to Files here and download whatever the latest version of Drac Lab happens to be at the time that you watch this video. For me, the last upload, or the last update, was on 19th of April this year. And then once you've downloaded this, you'll want to go ahead and download the mod itself that we're going to be looking at today, which is called the Struggle for Freedom. So this is the rebalancing or difficulty mod. And once again, just head over to the Files option here and make sure you download whatever the latest version of this happens to be. So for me, this was updated just a couple of days ago, although I do expect some more updates to come out for this one, because the author has actually said there's a few bugs that they are working on as well. So once you've gone ahead and downloaded both of those files, you'll end up then with two archives, two compressed archives, Drac Lab as a zip file, and then the Struggle for Freedom, which is the mod itself, as a zip file or RAR file or something else. So you'll want to extract both of these, of course, and then you'll have everything that you need to actually get going with the modding. So then what we're going to do is go ahead and open the draclab.exe program. So this, remember, is the mod loader, if you like. And then what we're going to do is select this open VBF file here. And if it hasn't already brought you to the correct location, it probably won't. This is because I've been here before, it's remembered. Just click in, right click, and paste the address that I told you to copy a few moments ago. Or you can navigate there manually if you didn't do that. And then you want to select the VBF file that is the original file, so not the backup that we made. That's in case we need to restore things. So we're going to go for the original FF12 TZA.vbf file and select open. And this can take a few seconds, depending on how fast your computer is. And there it is, the Struggle for Freedom is there. If this hasn't come up for whatever reason, then let me just try and remove this. Is there any way to remove it? Yes, you'll want to go to Add Mod. So assuming that you've opened the VBF file now, you want to go to Add Mod, and then we're going to head over to wherever it is that you've downloaded the mod. For me, that's going to be in Games here, Final Fantasy 12, Mods, and unfortunately this dialog box can be a bit small, so we'll just make it a bit bigger there. The Struggle for Freedom, and then you've got two options actually, the original option or a newly updated option, which will change the license boards to be more like the original Final Fantasy 12, whereas this option here, the Struggle for Freedom, is what the mod creator has updated the license boards to. So this is the one we're going to use. And you don't need to select any of these other folders then, just make sure you've got this folder here selected and then click OK. And then this is going to take a few seconds, there it is. And all we need to do now is hit this nice big green tick button, and the mod is loaded. So we can exit this if we want to and start up the game. And there we have it then guys, you've got everything you need to actually go and test this out for yourself. So I hope this video's been a help to you. If it has, please do share in the video description what you think of this particular mod, and are you going to try and play through the game with it enabled? And if you do play through the game with this mod, then please do share your thoughts on that as well in the comment section. And if you've got any issues with it, then let us know so that other players can be aware of those things. But also, I would encourage you to get involved with the modding community if you haven't already, to share your thoughts, share your ideas, check out the Discord group for the Final Fantasy 12 mods. There's a lot of interesting stuff that gets posted over there. But that's really it. That's what I wanted to share with you for today. So this is the Struggle for Freedom mod. Definitely one of the more fully fledged mods that's currently available for Final Fantasy 12, and I think it's great that we get to experiment with these types of things as well. But thanks for stopping by today, folks. Hope you've had a good time, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.